something for Black History Month, or for Hispanic Heritage Month, or whatever, or the ELDIA program, raise your hand and get involved, because you put that down on your resume, and then when I start looking for cultural competencies or for experience with diversity, that makes a difference. And everything else being equal, folks, for those of you who are students, everything else being equal between you and 3 other candidates, same amount of experience, great grades, same organizations that you're involved. When I see that a candidate has been involved in some aspect of diversity, and it doesn't matter when or where, that person then rises to the top of the list. You do not have to be a person of color to be involved in diversity or to develop cultural competencies. Now, the other benefit, you don't think that I didn't benefit by my knowledge of Native American in this particular, early on in my career, it was the Jicarilla Apache tribe, and then going back to UNM and learning a lot more about the 19 pueblos in New Mexico, and working with Native Americans, librarians in the library, and understanding their ways and being sensitive to that. And you don't think that I didn't learn when I had 15 male Saudi students and all of their families? That's what I'm talking about. That was a benefit to me. It was a benefit to me to be exposed and engaged in those different cultures. Another benefit, and this ties into what I was talking about earlier for those of you who are students, you are known for supporting minorities. You don't have to be a minority to support a minority. But the fact that I see that somebody is involved in different aspects of diversity within the library school, or within the library where you're a part-time employer or employee, or within the community, that's a benefit. And it's only going to become a greater benefit, because the movement is to make that a requirement. Right now it's a preferred in many of the job applications. Knowledge of and experience with diversity. And it's only becoming a stronger qualification. And then language abilities. Now this is where I flunk. You don't have to be a minority to have cultural competency in language. I'm not bilingual. It's embarrassing, you know, being the first Latina president of ALA and getting calls from other countries and saying, would you be willing to come? And the first thing I say is I have to be up front. I'm not bilingual. I tell him on the phone, entiendo más mejor que puedo hablar, but I'm not bilingual, which means, you know, I understand much better than I can talk. I don't have the self-confidence. I grew up in a bilingual family. My grandparents were almost monolingual in Spanish. So, and many of you, probably in this room, everywhere I go, people are fluent in other languages, and they're not part of that minority group. So whoever knows Spanish pretty well, you have it up on me. But that's another cultural competency that's important. Now, when we talk about what cultural competencies can provide us with, and think about what I've just shared with you. First of all, extra resources. The fact that you can, as a student, when you're interviewing, can talk the talk by saying, and I was involved in this, and I helped put this particular cultural event on. And those of you who are practitioners, These are extra resources that you have when you can say that you have some cultural competencies. Enriched insights. I'm a living testimony relative to the Native American culture and the Mideastern culture. When I went to China for about 14 days, I loved it. Talk about experiencing another culture. And I wasn't immersed, but Clary, you will love this, and Shali, you would love this. I was invited, I was at CLA, California Library Association in Pasadena, giving a presentation, and the Kala chapter invited me to their banquet. And it was wonderful, the food was superb. But I started, and they asked me if I would say a few words, and the first thing I started with was ni hao, which is hello, or greetings, and people were just delighted. Again, showing that I was sensitive to their culture. Doesn't mean I'm an expert in their language or expert in their particular culture, but it showed that I was sensitive and mindful and respectful. And I ended my talk with "shishé," which means thank you. And so, you know, again, those are insights and some skills that I have developed learning other cultures. And this last one I am directing to those of us who are people of color in this room. Cultural competencies give you lessons in confronting challenges. And I put in parens, you develop a thick skin. You develop a thick skin. For those of you who have immersed yourself in some other culture, you know what I'm talking about. It was interesting, when I was the school librarian on that Indian reservation, all of the teachers were non-native. All of us were non-native. And we lived on the reservation. It was an independent school district, but we lived on a teacherage. And in that teacherage, there were a lot of kids, the kids of the teachers. And I have to tell you, on the one hand, I felt sorry for them because they were the minority in that school. On the other hand, I think they became richer and enriched by the fact that they were immersed in another culture. And trust me when I say they also developed thick skin because they were the minority in that particular environment. Now, for those of us who are practitioners, and for those of you students who are leaders in your own right and plan to be leaders, the whole idea of cultural competent leaders does not mean the library administration. Hopefully they are culturally competent in their own right.